This week, Apple is trying to ignore your privacy, Tor is trying to protect its network, and YouTube is staying on Roku. It's Tuesday, December 14th, 2021, and this is episode 613 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, through our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Twitch, and YouTube, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is normally on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, but if you follow us on social media, you'll know when we go live. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. I see we've already got comments tonight. Hello to our live viewers. If you're not able to join us live, that is okay. You can also go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, The Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, First Looks, and a whole lot more. And of course, you can find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. We want to apologize to our live viewers. We had some technical issues last night that prevented us from doing a show, but it's okay because we're here tonight. Hooray! With our first Tuesday show in almost a year. We did one at the very beginning of the year. But normally when we get backed up, we back up to a Monday or we cancel the show altogether. But there's some interesting stuff this week that we really felt we wanted to talk about. So
yeah,
here we are on a Tuesday.
Absolutely. This is there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in tech, and it is of course the midst of the holiday season, but that doesn't mean that there's not interesting things going on. In fact, in addition to all of the news going on, you see people doing holiday tech related things. So today I had my show that I host, the Tom's Hardware Podcast, which I do at Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. And we had, and I always dress up for it. And we had a guest today who has decked out his house with 120,000 Christmas lights that are controlled by 4 Raspberry Pis. There is an 8-minute show that it does, and you can see a video of it on the gentleman's name is Shane Bourgeois, and Shane Bourgeois's YouTube channel. He actually has a video of it from last year, and this year he said that it has just a few more lights, but he's waiting for snow to get a video of it in the snow because he likes to show what it looks like during the snow when he videos it. But it plays like this Christmas music, and it happens. I guess there's something a little unclear on. There's a button outside his house that if you're walking by his house, you can hit the button and it will set off the show, the 8-minute show. But he also has the show go off automatically, happen every 30 minutes. And if you can listen to it directly from his house, like outside of his house blaring on a speaker, or if you drive over to his house, because apparently people drive in from out of town to see his display. I'm not actually exactly sure what town he's in. Massachusetts somewhere, what town he's in. Okay. But people drive from out of town. The town actually advertises his house on their Facebook page as a tourist attraction.
Wild.
And you can tune in to 87.2 or something on your FM radio, and his house is actually broadcasting the music on on an FM channel for, every time it does this.
Sure.
So I asked him, like, what do your neighbors think about this? And he
Right?
said that his next door neighbor was cool with it. And then across the street, there's an apartment complex, and he hasn't gotten any complaints from the people in the
Okay.
apartment complex. Now, I don't know if I could hear that music every half an hour. I mean, for the light part of it is one thing, but if I could hear that music every half an hour, I don't know how I would feel about it. But they it's a pretty impressive display. I will say that. There's so and he claims that his isn't the biggest display like this. That there's some open source software that you can get
Uh-huh.
to control massive light displays with Raspberry
Hmm.
Pi, and so apparently there are people all over the internet doing the same.
Yeah. Actually, one of our Roboticon volunteers documented his process of installing and setting up the DMX system this year for his lights. So, yeah.
Yeah, he said he uses X lights.
Uh huh.
Is that the same as DMX?
Well, DMX is a protocol.
Right. Yeah. So So anyway, and then he said next year there's also going to be a display for Halloween.
Yep. Yeah, those are getting real
So
popular too. We've got a couple of them around here. And in fact, we've actually got we used to have a house around here who did a whole show to lights, and they also had a short range FM transmitter set up so you could listen to the music from your car too.
that's cool. I mean, I always love the Halloween ones the best. Uh, we haven't had anything quite that cool around here in terms of like a massive light show, but we have seen people with like robotic witches and things like that on their yards. So
Okay.
that that's cool. I'm uh, I'm a fan of the innovation. Um,
Yeah. And using relatively easily accessible things to create something big and exciting for the whole community.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'd hate to see what his electric bill is.
Right?
You know, because I bet it's fairly significant for all those lights and the music and everything like that. But I
Sure.
mean, it's definitely a source of pride, which is great. I mean, even if you watch the episode we did, which is on the Tom's Hardware YouTube channel, you'll see that he actually has like this crazy like Pelican case that he's like turned into his like control center, and
Gotcha.
it's got like a rack. It's like got rack mounted Raspberry Pis that you can pull in and out with like
Okay.
3D printed racks on
Nice.
them, and like all it's like that's actually as impressive as the outdoor display is that he's got this thing which kind of he said it's like the nuclear football or something. You
Uh-huh.
open it up and there are all these lights and things and racks inside, and it's just for you know it's just for controlling this massive light display that he has. So
That's super cool. Well, I have not seen today's episode yet, so I look forward to putting that on while I'm editing in a little while. For those of you, well, whether you're watching live or not, just a reminder that right after the holidays, we have CES coming up. That is our next big thing, both for Tom's Hardware and for PLUGHITZ Live and the Tech Podcast Network. It's going to be a big deal for us this year. We're trying to bring the show up a little higher, which we're pretty excited about. In 2020, we literally brought it up higher when we put it up on the tower. But this year, we're adding a lot of stuff that we haven't had in the past, including early publishing, which we've talked about in the past. Definitely, you're going to want to check it out over on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/PLUGHITZLive, there's a join button. And the second tier, the yellow shirt tier, we will be putting videos in there from the floor and from the live production all during the show, which we're pretty excited about. We've never gotten to do this before. We're real excited about it. So if you're one of our members, you'll get early access to all the interviews. Definitely go check that out. It's going to be cool. We're trying to get a new set this year, Avram. We're doing something different. We haven't announced what it is we're doing yet, but the whole show, if we do it right, is going to look different. We're real excited about it.
So the membership tiers are red shirt, yellow shirt, blue shirt,
and green shirt. So green for the PLUGHITZ live color, and also right. Captain Kirk's weird.
He had the
sometimes
he had
green
the green
uniform.
Shirt. Yeah, for like a dress uniform in the original series.
So we call our free subscribers the red shirts. The first tier are the blue shirts. The second tier are the yellow shirts, and then our big subscribers, where you get your name in the credits of CES and all kinds of stuff. Those are our green shirts because it was infrequently used in the show. So it's infrequently used. It's our elite tier over on YouTube and on Twitch. Don't forget, you can also support us over on Twitch. But if you support us over on YouTube right now, you get that special perk of the early publishing of the videos, which is really cool. But you also get this show right here, old throwback. You'll get that ad free tomorrow, which is pretty cool as well. So lots of cool stuff.
I just want to point out that I started watching the latest season of Star Trek Discovery, and the captain is wearing a red shirt.
Okay.
So
we're at that point where the uniforms are changing to the correct style, the actual Navy style, as opposed to where they had the yellow and red backward.
I mean, some of the other people have red also, or whatever. I guess some of the people on the bridge, but yes, the captain is wearing red. So I believe also that Captain Picard was wearing red in Next Gen. So
everybody but Toss. So in Next Generation, they fixed the color schemes. They didn't know that they had two of the colors backwards. So in Toss, red and yellow were backwards, and then from Next Gen on, Command was in red, and what would have been called the yellow shirt, the red shirts, were wearing yellow.
Okay. Well, anyway, the original is still the best. So
original is what we based our tiers on.
So the colors are correct.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, so we've got a lot of stuff coming up. We're very excited about it. And obviously our subscribers, both free and paid tiers, will get to check that out soon because CES is way too close for comfort. So, and we'll be making some announcements. I think starting this Friday, we're going to start posting some of our favorite interviews from last year as a lead up to CES 2022, which we're pretty excited about. So stay tuned for that. But for now, like we said, we've got a lot of news to get down to. So let's do that now. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, desperately seeking a new Xbox, games, and a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. To browse the products, to see deals that are going on, and to learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. All right, so it's been almost a year since the topic of app tracking transparency started. We know that earlier in the year, Apple started to make a big deal about the feature, as Facebook started to make a big deal about the feature, but in opposite directions. You might remember the ad that Apple ran. There was a guy who was using his phone. Every time he did something, somebody else started sitting around him and watching what he was doing until it came up with a little dialogue box that said, "Ask not to track." He hit it, and all the people disappeared. That's the app tracking transparency feature. Basically, you get to tell apps that you do not want them to have access to identifiable and behavioral data. Some of that can include browser history and even the other apps that you use and switch between. But what we are finding out now is that it doesn't work exactly the way Apple said it did. In fact, they have given the people that Tim Cook once called hucksters access to that data, even if you tell them no. In particular, Facebook and Snap, the two companies that you would imagine were the ones that Apple was trying to hold back at bay. No. They still have access to that information, even if you say ask not to track. But they've been asked, pretty please, don't make it identifiable. Now, Facebook is not Meta, I guess, is not a company that is known for keeping their promises on privacy. I think we all remember the leak of the phone number database from them not too long ago. And of course, we can't forget about Cambridge Analytica, which was kind of the beginning of the public's big concerns with what Facebook was up to. Apple is just trusting that given the access, even when they're not supposed to have it, that they will anonymize it. So, I think we can trust that, right, Avram?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the thing is, at this point, I don't know. I feel like privacy is already so violated every time you use certain apps and do certain things that and even do things that you didn't realize that were violating your privacy. I feel like maybe we're living in a post-privacy world. Like, I don't know. I can't get too excited about people saying, "Oh, this is good for your privacy," and others saying, "Oh, don't trust this company. They're bad for your privacy." Like, I feel like I don't have a lot of privacy. So when it comes to online stuff. So like all this stuff about, well, we're going to fix it so this company can't track you and that company can't track you, but still whoever's holding the reins to that can track you, has their own way to track you, like Google trying to do away with cookies and things like that. But meanwhile, Google has all this information on you. So look, all this, we don't want a company to track us, is really a nice way of saying we're going to decide who gets to track you, who gets access to the best personally identifiable data from you and who doesn't. And then in a way, that's picking winners and losers in a business, because having that information has value. So
it's similar. Similar to the argument over the current patent law, right? It's the government picking winners and losers, and in this case, this is Apple picking winners and losers.
Right. So, yeah, you know what? I'm not so sure. I mean, I get it. The public, like, if you hear Apple's going to protect my privacy, or Google's going to protect my privacy, or this thing's going to protect my privacy using a particular special browser or something's going to protect my privacy, I get it why you would say, "Hey, that sounds pretty good." But I'm not really sure what is really being protected. Are you protecting me from ads that show stuff that I was interested in? Oh well,
Sure.
it doesn't, like, I don't care. Now,
I
mind
can tell
you,
you, I can tell you at this point, my ads are never what I'm looking for this time of year because, gift guides and
yeah,
CES
exactly.
pitches and
I
stuff.
mean,
My ads are
right.
bonkers already.
Right. I mean, it depends, but yes, I have gotten ads for a lot of things. Now, I mean, I guess if you're browsing something that you, I don't know, would be embarrassed if somebody saw the ad over your shoulder that you were looking at and thought you were interested in such thing. But who knows? Ads are weird. So, like,
That's true.
it's hard for me to imagine how this affects privacy in any way that's really tangible to me. Now, like, I'm concerned about security. I'm concerned about
Sure.
people getting information they could use to impersonate me, for, to do identity theft.
Sure.
But
Like the
it's
conversation
hard.
we had about dating apps and
Yeah, yeah, like
social phishing and stuff
that
like that.
that should be a concern. But whether a company can send me, like, I don't know, I'm staring right now at the upstream page, and there's an ad for Walmart that has a whole bunch of stuff that I was looking at for shopping over the last few weeks, and most of it not at Walmart either. um or maybe I was at
Interesting.
Walmart at one point. Anyway,
Hopefully at
it doesn't.
Walmart's
Okay.
website and not that you're getting ads
Yes.
based on where you physically were in a Walmart store.
Oh, I haven't been in a Walmart in a long time, so no, it's not. So, like, okay, whatever. It's not bad. I mean, it kind of reminds me that I have to get that at some point I have to buy this board game. Um, so, like, you know what? It doesn't. I don't know. I'm not too concerned about my privacy from things like targeted ads, which is what most of this has to do with.
True.
I'm concerned about information that has can be financially damaging to me.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, but all of these things that these apps are tracking you with are not financially damaging to you. So, really, what they are is possibly financially beneficial to an advertiser.
Right.
And that's commerce. Let them advertise to me. If they advertise to me something I'm not interested in, that's their problem. If they advertise to me
True.
something I am interested in, uh,
Great.
that's okay. I mean, maybe I won't click it, but I guess I'd rather see pictures of stuff I was interested in the ads on a page than stuff that I'm not. So,
Fair enough.
for a while, I don't think I'm not getting any more, but for a while I used to get all these ads. Like, I'm a big fan of Adafruit, which is a site that sells a lot of electronics or whatever. And I remember for a while there was like a phone game. A bubble popping game I was playing on my phone a lot, and I would get all these ads on it for, like, buying a Raspberry Pi at Adafruit, and I'd be like, well, I've already done that, but, like, I'd rather see them than see some of the other junk that this could pop up.
True.
So
Yeah.
if you got to show me an ad,
Especially
show
on
me a
mobile.
pleasant one,
Especially on
right?
mobile. Because a lot of the mobile like ad platforms, they show some weird stuff. I get strange ads on mobile
Right.
for stuff that's like, how did we get here?
Right, exactly. So, I don't know. I guess my overall point is, I think people are too worried about privacy, don't are worried about privacy, but they don't really know what it is.
Yeah,
They don't know what it,
I
it
can see that.
means when companies like Apple say we're going to protect your privacy.
Sure.
You know, you know what folks should do? They should start by protecting their own privacy by not posting stuff, by not oversharing online.
True.
I mean, I will not get into this or name names, but I had a acquaintance, not someone who's like a good friend or anything, acquaintance, someone who I knew professionally, this week on social media, share some really, really, really private, juicy details about their personal life, their marriage, other kind of stuff their run-ins with the law and stuff like that and it's not the first time I've seen somebody do that. And I wanted to say to the person, like, but we're not really a friend, so I'm not going to comment for them.
Right.
Like, if I were you, I really wouldn't share this like this. So,
right.
and anyway, point being, I think people are their own worst enemies when it comes to privacy, because
True
of the things that they publish to either publicly or to a wider group of friends than they should, or to anybody online. So, I think I think people should worry more about what they're putting out there than what advertisements they're getting.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot to that. Now I'm gonna have to poke a little bit. What board game? I know it's what everybody wants to know.
Oh, okay. So actually, this would be more of a card game than a board game if you really want to be technical. But I was visiting a good friend of mine this weekend, and we were playing this game called Throw Burrito, which is a really fun game. I learned. So it is a game where it's like a dodgeball style card game. What you do is you have the object of the game is to collect is to score the most points by having the most like sets of 3 cards. But while you're playing, you can you can collect, like, you can start a burrito duel, and like the other players, you make the other players throw these rubber burritos at each other, and whoever gets hit with a rubber burrito gets a burrito bruise, which costs them a point. So you play until all six burrito bruises have been given out, and then see who has the most points. The game is actually pretty hilarious, and it's the only card game I have ever played where there are no turns. It's just continuous. People are just like dealing cards and going around simultaneously.
Okay.
Play only stops when there's a burrito duel. So,
if you're watching live, I've put the link in the chat to Amazon. Amazon's got it on sale right now.
Yes. So we have lately discovered some fun like card games. So through a good friend of mine introduced my wife and I and my family and I to some really fun card games. There's that. We got one called Exploding Kittens, which is like more like a game we have to make sure that you don't get the kitten bomb card, and then
it's made by the same
unicorns. People. Yes. And then there's another one that's made by a different company that we've gotten called Unstable Unicorns, where kind of a similar ilk. So anyway, cute, fun, no computers involved.
Sure.
An actual offline game that you can play with other human beings. Amazing.
Alante said in the chat, very familiar with Exploding Kittens and Unstable Unicorns, which definitely suggests that Throw Burrito is a new one to him. We might have to put our hands on this one too, especially with it being on sale. I am curious what the difference is between the original and the outdoor edition. I'm going to research.
Oh, the outdoor one. The outdoor one, they're this big.
Oh my god. Okay.
They're like they're bigger than life size. They're human size. So and the cards are bigger too.
So it's like throwing a dog. Got it.
It's like throwing a giant beach ball at someone, basically. And if you catch the burrito, the other person gets the bruise. So.
Okay, I can't wait to investigate this more because this is ridiculous. I absolutely love it. But anyway, I guess the takeaway is that it kind of is what it is. We know what the internet is these days, and right now it doesn't seem to be harming anybody what advertisers are looking at. So maybe we don't need to be too worried about this right now. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices, and you can get a special money-back. Get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. That fascinatingly ties in with our last topic, but right now we're going to change topics and talk about the last year.
So it's been an interesting year. It's been a bad year once again for shortages. It's been very difficult to get a graphics card in 2021, and supplies of other tech products have gotten better, but still there's some shortages going on. Well, also I should say Xboxes and PlayStation 5s are still, especially PlayStation 5s, are still hard to come by, but they're affected by the same graphics shortage as graphics cards. So nevertheless, there's been some wonderful innovations this year, and we have picked the top 15 products of 2021 for Tom's Hardware, and I'm going to share my screen and talk about it. So we have this up as an article on the tomshardware.com homepage right now, and the best CPU this year, especially the most innovative, has certainly been Intel's Alder Lake processor, or Alder Lake family of processors. They are Intel's first hybrid processor for the desktop. That means it has a combination of performance cores, otherwise known as P cores, and efficiency cores called E cores. And the E cores and the P cores together allow you to get the best gaming performance on a consumer, or on really a mainstream, or even any CPU, because rather than all the cores using the same amount of power, it can really say you've got some streaming going on in the background, or you've got messaging going on in the background, or you've got music going on in the background. Those can go on the efficiency cores that run at a lower clock speed, use less power, and then more of the heat and power can go to the cores that are doing the important work, like running your game. Similarly, for graphics cards, this was not a year of big innovation because we are all still trying to get new graphics cards. But among those new graphics cards that came out, the RTX 3060 was a real standout, because if it were selling anywhere near its MSRP of $329, it would be quite a bargain. It's giving you 12 gigabytes of video RAM, which is very important for a lot of titles, and high performance GDDR6 video RAM at that. A really big standout for the inside of your PC for your storage is an SSD that only came out this fall. The Kingston KC3000 is the fastest NVMe SSD that we have tested. It even was faster than the Samsung 980 Pro and WD Black SN850. It can operate at read and write speeds of 7 and 6 gigabit per second. So pretty impressive. Skipping along to some other stuff, the MSI Optics MPG 321UR-QD. Pause. That's a lot of letters. Pause and play that back. Play that back again in case you want to know what to buy. Is a very impressive gaming monitor this year, and it has been on sale for as little as $799. Although at the moment, I'm not sure what the price is at this very second, but during the Black Friday Cyber Week, you could get this for $799, and it is a curved 32-inch 4K gaming monitor that operates at 144 hertz, and it covers 117% of the DCI-P3 color gamut because it uses quantum dot technology. So an incredibly impressive 4K gaming monitor. And in a world where really good 4K gaming monitors can easily cost you over $1,000, this is actually a great value for the price. For our favorite keyboard of the year is one that viewers of this show would be familiar with because I reviewed it recently and showed it on the show, which is the Akko 3098B, a really impressive wireless keyboard that you can also run wired, that has just absolutely fantastic keycaps, the ability to do 5 different between Bluetooth wired and 2.4 gigahertz, 5 different profiles, so you could easily switch back and forth between your different devices, and lovely RGB settings, and a really awesome compact 96% keyboard layout. Our favorite mouse is the Razer Basilisk V3, which what's interesting is the scroll wheel intelligently detects whether you need an infinite scroll or an incremental scroll and changes the amount of tension dynamically to suit you,
Fascinating.
which is pretty impressive. This year we also saw the birth of the Raspberry Pi Pico, which we've talked about in the show, which is Raspberry Pi's first microcontroller, which has led to an entire ecosystem of microcontrollers using Raspberry Pi's RP2040 SoC. So that was really revolutionary. You could say it's kind of an Arduino killer in the world of microcontrollers. The new MacBook Pro is a big step forward for Apple. It's rather a step forward by stepping back to giving you actual USB port, to giving you regular USB ports, HDMI out, and no more touch bar. So that's useful. We also really love the Voxlab Aries 3D printer. Great for families and first time printing. It's a mostly enclosed printer that delivers great prints and has Wi-Fi. And our favorite webcam of the year, there's usually not a ton of innovation in the webcam world, but this year there was. Dell's Ultra Sharp webcam gives you really great 4K capture with the HDR capability and also the ability to shoot at 60 FPS. So most webcams are not really any better than the $60 Logitech C920 that people have been using for 10 years. But Dell's Ultra Sharp webcam, which does cost quite a bit, it's around $200, really does give you a nicer field of view, better low light, better color, and high resolution. So lots of great stuff that has come out this year. I definitely recommend folks check out our list of the best tech products of 2021 on the homepage of tomshardware.com.
Sorry about that delay. Still dealing with some stuff happening in here. Anyway, that was some interesting products. I wasn't prepared for the webcam because obviously, like you said, webcams just don't change that much. There's usually not that much interesting things happening in the webcam
there
space.
There should be, though.
There should be.
There should be, especially after the year that we had in 2020, where people discovered that doing web chats and doing video calls became more important than ever and is going to continue to be really important. Yeah. The need to innovate in that space and give you better quality visuals is still key. So Dell gets a lot of credit for that. I'd like to see a little bit more innovation from some other companies. Razer did a good job with the new Keo Pro as well.
Yeah.
This year. I would like
got
to
one out
see
in my
more.
office.
This, however, Dell's Ultra Sharp gives you better picture than the Keo Pro. But I'd like to see a little bit more in terms of quality webcams on laptops. We are seeing a
Yes.
bit better. Apple upped the ante a bit on the new MacBook Pro with the webcam, although it's in a notch. So I think we're going to see more and more laptop webcams going to 1080p, but I'd like to see better in terms of low light and color reproduction and things like that, because you need a good webcam.
It's true now more than ever, right? This has been an awakening for several industries. Laptops and then desktop webcams has been an impressive awakening. Obviously, here we use something a little different as a webcam. We've got the Keo Pro out there, but we've been using the Logitech Mevos as webcams as well when we're here in the studio. And these things are, I mean, they're not inexpensive, but they're really cool little cameras. In fact, you're looking at me on a Mevo right now.
Fantastic.
And we'll be doing all of CES with a Mevo.
That's great. It's great to have good quality good quality cameras for shooting. I feel like back before the pandemic, a lot of companies, a lot of compute PC vendors had written the webcam off, and that was incredibly foolish even at the time. Remember, we saw Apple having 480p cameras on its MacBooks. We saw companies like Dell putting the webcam to shoot up your nose. I think we even saw some companies actually not even giving you a webcam on a couple of devices. Like, it was such an afterthought. And I always thought it was a mistake.
Yeah, and it's good to see that there's focus being put back on it, because it definitely is needed, especially now. And, you know, while people, you're a great example of it, right? People are starting to go back into offices, but not full time, not everybody. Lots of people are continuing to work remotely. And so,
I mean,
a computer with a built-in webcam that's quality is going to continue to be important, because we don't want to have to lug around another piece of equipment. It would be much better if the one built into our laptop was actually a quality camera. It's nice that Dell and Logitech and Razer have been doing this thing for certain markets, but, you know, a $200 Dell or Razer webcam is not designed for the average office worker necessarily. It's definitely designed for Twitch streamers and stuff. So, you know,
I would like to see, and I don't know if this will ever be technically possible, but I would consider this to be a great achievement. If someone could figure out a way to embed a webcam underneath your screen so that you're looking right at it. And make it almost like a one-way mirror or something, so you don't see it when you're looking at the screen, but it sees you.
I believe that there's a phone or two that have prototyped that in the wild so far. One kind of did it iffy. When you turn it on, the notch gets knocked out, so you can still see the lens. But I think there's one that's doing it essentially one-way mirror style. Through the glass. So at least that's a prototype of the concept.
Because I think that's one of the problems that no webcam has really solved is if the webcam is over here and you want me to be looking you in the eye, right? I want to be looking at the screen where I'm looking at your face. So ideally the webcam would be exactly where I'm looking.
Right. And not so it looks like I'm doing this while I'm talking to you. Where I'm looking up over your head.
So you kind of have the choice, right? Either I'm looking at you or I'm looking at the camera.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
perfect.
I'm either doing this or this with the nostril cam. Either either way, I'm not looking like I'm engaging with you. But if I am looking at you, I'm looking. It doesn't look like it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, you might have said it, and I wasn't paying attention because I was trying to fix the internet. Uh, obviously, this list is already up. Correct?
Yes, on tomshardware.com on the homepage, so you can go check it out right now.
Fantastic. Well, as always, Avram, I appreciate it. You obviously see way more products in a year than I could possibly hope to put my hands on. So it's always nice to see how they have done. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Loot Crate. Whether you're a gamer, anime fan, or pop culture aficionado, Loot Crate has got a crate for you. They curate a bundle of collectibles, apparel, figures, and more that you can't find anywhere else. Crates get delivered to your door. It is like getting an awesome birthday present from yourself every month. And to learn more about the crates, to find out what is available and what deals are running, you can go to f5live.tv/lootcrate. All right, so one brand that we don't talk about very often, although lately we have been, has been Google Stadia. That was Google's gaming platform that received a hearty meh from the gaming community when it came out, and has not really hit its stride. It works well, but it doesn't have anything that makes it particularly special. There hasn't been any exclusive games or anything like that. Google went and shut their internal first-party development studio down before they launched even their first title, signaling that maybe Google wasn't quite as excited about it as they had let on. Then came an announcement that the company was going to be licensing the technology to other people to white label. We saw AT&T do that recently with Batman, one of the Batman games that they made available to their mobile subscribers, though interestingly, you couldn't play it on mobile, but that's okay. That's a whole different issue. This week, something interesting happened, but it is not necessarily the party that Stadia owners have been hoping for. LG has made Google Stadia available on its webOS televisions. You have to be running webOS 5.0, which basically means the 2020 and 2021 models of LG televisions, but it works. We're here. Your choices are surprisingly wide on the different ways that you can interact with it. The Stadia controller can connect directly to Wi-Fi. You can also pair it with your mobile phone and use its internet connection. If you have a 2021 LG TV, they've got Bluetooth, which means that you could pair an Xbox or a PlayStation controller to it. Or if you've got a 2020, you can even use a long USB cable if you have one and plug it in directly and use any number of controllers. The interface is solid. The pairing to the Stadia controller is not ideal when trying to pair to your mobile device because unlike other platforms, the pairing code doesn't come up on the initial screen like it should. But other than that, everything runs real smooth. It's a nice, solid implementation of the Stadia technology, but there's a couple problems. One, LG's TVs are not quite the market saturation that, say, Samsung or TCL have. And if you exclude the TCL TVs that launched this year with Google TV on board that have been pulled from sale Then your TCL TV probably runs Roku, which doesn't have it. Your Samsung TV doesn't have it. There's a lot of platforms that it still isn't, if they're not Google. So, yes, this is a good sign, though LG made this promise almost a year ago at CES 2021 that they were going to have Stadia by the end of the year. They came in just under the buzzer. But maybe it is a signal that that Google's willing to try again, or try at all, because it didn't feel like they tried initially. Otherwise, we would have seen this elsewhere, right? We would have seen it on Samsung or Roku or somewhere that's not owned by Google.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it on Roku. So, but here's the question, and I guess people who use Stadia don't care that much, but you're still going over a Bluetooth connection, right? So, are you introducing too much latency for a game that requires high speed?
It's what you're doing with Xbox cloud gaming or things of that nature. So that's not a unique latency. And if you use the actual Stadia controller and hook it up directly to the interwebs, then your delay is only the Wi-Fi delay, because you're both pushing to the same server, right? You've just got two endpoints, one for video and one for input output. So it's actually, when you do that, you technically don't have any additional lag that you would, a frame or two extra with Bluetooth. But if you're talking, streaming a game, I think we all know what we're getting ourselves into with that. GeForce Now, yeah, or Xbox game, cloud gaming. I think we all know what we're getting into, and that we might have a couple of frames of additional lag there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I was just looking at the selection here. There's a pretty decent selection of games that you can play on Stadia now.
Yes.
I don't think
the
these
catalog
are all
has definitely
like
grown.
I think a lot of these are old games, though. Don't seem to be like the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
In terms of things that like really require a high-end PC to play or anything like that. I don't see like Halo Infinite on here or anything.
Yeah, but, yeah, you're definitely not going to get a Microsoft exclusive on it.
But I mean, just something of that ilk of like, or Battlefield, or whatever,
something
like
more modern,
things that require a really good PC. I don't see anything on this list that isn't several years old or really to the low end here. Although I guess if you got kids, you can really appreciate that they have multiple Paw Patrol games.
Do they?
And if you've ever wanted to, farm on your TV, Farming Simulator 19 Premium Edition is available for Stadia.
Well, I mean, come on. How can it get any better than that?
I get pitches. There's a company that makes all these simulators. I should know the name, but I've forgotten it. That the company, they make just like the most. They have the farming simulator. They have the bus driver simulator. They have a police simulator. They're just like all kinds of things, simulating all kinds of professions. And I actually find it kind of interesting. Like, yeah, you might never get to be a farmer in your life, but here's your chance.
Well, Farming Simulator, the developer is Giants Software. I'm on their Steam listing right now, and somebody says Vask Tech might be another company that's in that space as well. But yeah, so one of the things that I do notice is that Destroy All Humans, which came out last year as the rebirth of that franchise, is on Stadia. So that's pretty modern. It's only a year old. I'm not looking obviously at everything, but I did see that. There's a Katamari Damacy on here. That's pretty cool. I think that's a game that everybody can enjoy. Destiny 2. I mean, there's some quality games on here. There's nothing standout that is exclusive over here. So there's nothing that you couldn't also play on GeForce Now. But if you were playing on, theoretically, if you're playing over there, they're games that you own and you could play elsewhere as well, as opposed to Stadia. Your purchases would be stuck behind Stadia. So there's not a whole lot right now to recommend it hugely. But maybe, like I said, maybe this is a symbol of a bit of a rebirth. Maybe Google's gonna take this thing seriously this time. I guess we'll see with time. Obviously, when they launched, they were a little ahead of an industry that was really about to bloom, right? So maybe they just weren't confident in the market. You know, we had just a couple years earlier watched OnLive trip all over itself to figure out how to fail quickly. So, you know, maybe they were just going in with some caution, and now that they've seen Xbox Cloud Gaming be massively successful and GeForce Now having success, so much success that studios have said, no, you can't do that. That's when you know you've had success, when the studios that weren't asked are like, oh, hold on.
Yeah. I mean, GeForce Now gives you a really good, I mean, they're giving you a really good PC. They tell you what if you pay for one of the plans, they tell you, as we went over on this show a while back, you now have they have a 3080 plan where you can get access to a 3080 card.
Right.
So
yeah. And with this, you don't know what you're getting, but I guess the goal here is for it to be a little more like that, right? Where you're supposed to just assume that it's going to work and sit back and let it go. Whereas GeForce Now is obviously aimed at a more specific market than what Stadia is.
People who would like a high-end gaming PC know what a high-end gaming PC is,
right?
But don't have one.
Exactly. And whereas with Stadia, you know, everything's wireless, it's a different ecosystem. But I definitely think there's a market for something like this if Google will put a little bit more effort into it. I'd love to see it show up on Roku, like you said, because the thing that's interesting is if you use the Stadia controller, you don't have the thing that's showing the pictures doesn't have to know anything about games. It doesn't have to be able to take a controller. You can just pair it into the wild or pair it into your phone, either way, and be able to play that way, with your phone signaling the controls and another thing signaling the down for video, which I think is a really clever way of addressing this. And it does set them up for something different, because, you know, could Xbox Cloud Gaming come to Roku? Not easily. Right? You'd have to know that the device could support a controller, which if you got a streaming stick or one of those little Roku pucks, it probably doesn't. But with Stadia, it doesn't have to.
Yeah, that is really key, because I would love it, for example, to be able to get NVIDIA GeForce Now on my Roku box.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to there is a set-top box for it, but you have to buy the Shield TV.
Right. Exactly. And this doesn't require that. Theoretically, so long as they make a client for the product, for the platforms, and here we are with LG being one of them. The problem with Roku, of course, is the way they handle their platform, which we will talk about in just a couple of minutes on in the DRM Not Included segment. But for now, that's this could be a good sign of things to come for Google Stadia, but don't get your hopes too high because we never know what might be coming next. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, and it actively blocks things like worms, trojans, spyware, bots, and a whole bunch more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. And to learn more and get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. All right, so we don't often talk about Tor, the onion routing project. Certainly not in a positive light. We've had topics over the years about Tor. When you hear the darknet, oftentimes they're talking about Tor as the back end. If you don't know what it is a system that is designed to highly obfuscate your browsing. There's a 3-tier system when browsing what they call the clear net, which is the regular internet. You connect. Normally, when you're on the internet, you say www.PLUGHITZlive.com, you hit enter, and it goes to a DNS server that gets an IP address, and then you communicate with the IP address and ask for your requests. With Tor, after you've had your the IP resolved, there are now 3 servers in between. The first one knows a lot of things, the second knows less things, and the third knows almost nothing. So by the time you're out on the ClearNet, the computer that's actually making the request knows very little about what's happening, and it certainly doesn't know who you are. This interestingly takes us back to the first topic, because a lot of people use, if they don't use a VPN, or sometimes in conjunction with a VPN, like PureVPN, they'll use Tor to additionally obfuscate their behavior. But because of the structure, there is a way to knock that security down some. A lot of the security is used in places like, say, Russia or China, where large portions of the internet are blocked. So with Tor, all the routing, as far as your ISP is concerned, looks like it's going somewhere else, right? You're going to this router that's possibly in your country. It's not blocked. Everything's fine. And then it's in charge of things outside. So on the Tor network recently, there has been a malicious actor. Now, by recently, I mean it's been a couple of years. 2017, this particular actor has gotten involved, and they come and go in big batches and small batches. And what they do is they set up servers on both ends of the routing network, hoping that your particular route will take you through both of their systems, where they can then unanonymize the data to determine where you're coming from, because the third server doesn't know where you are. But if one person is in charge of server 1 and server 3, they can unanonymize the data, and then on the endpoint, again, block you from accessing the ClearNet or certain parts of it if, say, Russia or China doesn't want you to be involved. And that appears to be what's happening here. The Tor server management system has been knocking these servers off as they're discovered, but it's not an easy process, especially considering just in the last week or so, this malicious actor has accounted for a statistically significant percentage of routes, possibly as high as 10% of all routes on the internet on Tor have gone through this particular malicious actor, which obviously undermines the whole concept, right? If the data is able to be unanonymized, the whole concept falls apart. Currently, it's believed to be a state-sponsored actor, which certainly sounds reasonable to me. I saw a quote that called it a governmenty thing to do, which was a phrase that I kind of liked, because it sounds a little fresher than it's meant to. But what do you think, Avram? It's definitely taking advantage of the infrastructure and the concept of the thing to undermine the whole point.
As we were talking about earlier, true privacy on the internet is very difficult to obtain.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a perfect solution here.
Sure.
Certainly use a VPN, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think folks should kind of assume that it's hard to avoid being tracked.
Yeah.
They still probably have a better shot of privacy with Tor than they do most anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's important to note that if you are, and we're not, okay, so a couple things. First, this does not apply to sites that are behind the wall, that are .onion sites as the top level domain. This infrastructure is not the way that works. So that's not affected. And more sites are setting up onion versions of their sites, including Facebook has a completely behind the Tor firewall version of Facebook. But if you are trying to access regular sites that are perhaps blocked by your country, China and Russia are the most obvious, but India also has a pretty high filter rate on content. We've seen, other countries get high into this. Tor has been a big way to have gotten around that. Some of the Arab Spring stuff. When Twitter was knocked offline, Tor was part of that as well. So if you're trying to use Tor for legitimate purposes, I'm not going to give any advice on how to use Tor for illegitimate purposes, but if you're trying to use it for legitimate purposes, in this particular case for ClearNet stuff, there's a couple things you can do. The first is that you can try and get a new circuit for your site. Control-Shift-L on your keyboard will do that. Hopefully you can knock out 1 or 3 being that state-sponsored bad actor. If that doesn't work, Control-Shift-U will get you a new identity and will knock out all of your routes and kind of start you from scratch. It will close the browser, but that should work as well. You might have to try it a couple of times because, like I said, at one point, this particular actor was involved in up to 10% of all active routes. So not great. So you might have to do a new circuit a couple of times to knock them out of the equation entirely. But hopefully that should get people back online. Obviously, being able to get around this kind of content manipulation can be important in countries like China or Russia where things are happening and people need to be able to communicate with one another and to be able to communicate outside of the country. So Tor is still able to do that. You've just possibly got to do a little bit of work. So helpful hint there, I guess. This week's DRM Not Included in F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You get free shipping and a lot more with your subscription. You get free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video. You get free games and a free Twitch subscription, which you can use to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, and you get a whole lot more. We've got quick links to our favorite features, these and a whole lot more. We've got a 30-day free trial if you're not already subscribed, and if you don't know what to get your loved one, a Prime subscription is a great gift idea. We've got a link for that as well, and all of that can be found by going to f5live.tv/prime. All right. We were talking about Roku and Google just a few minutes ago in regards to Google Stadia and why Roku may not be the next platform of choice for the company. And a lot of it has to do with what has happened over the last 8 months or so. Earlier in the year, contract negotiations went a little sideways between Google and Roku over the YouTube TV app. YouTube TV is the live platform, your cable replacement platform by YouTube. Contract negotiations broke down, and Roku pulled the YouTube TV app from their platform. So Google instead moved it into the primary YouTube app and said, haha, we've got you, forgetting that their contract on the YouTube primary app was up this week. And so both companies had hoped to call the other one's bluff and have them back down, similar to we've all been watching cable and heard your local NBC or Fox affiliate beg you to call your cable company, or you might lose all of your Universal networks. Google tried to do the same thing here and call Roku's bluff. In the end, the good news is, hours before the primary YouTube app was scheduled to be pulled from the platform, an agreement was reached, and YouTube and YouTube TV are safe under a multi-year deal. Now, what does multi-year mean? It could be 2, it could be 12. Neither company is talking. We'll see what happens here in the near future. Maybe we'll get more information as to what the deals here are. A lot of the disagreement came about over the way that search and discovery are done on more modern Roku platforms. YouTube TV had been given its own content row in discovery, and voice search was able to be done just within YouTube TV. With Roku 5, maybe, or 6, possibly 6, whatever the next one is, I think. Things are going to change, and Google wasn't interested in that. So that was where a lot of the battle came from. But just like Apple, Roku puts a lot of control over its platform. We know that HBO Max was months late to the party on Roku after it was available everywhere else, because of a similar kind of disagreement over royalties and things like that, which you can imagine YouTube TV also wanted to work on, was their royalty structure, because Roku wants a piece of the action if it's used on their platform, even if payments are taken off platform, which is different than Apple's current operating process, right? We've talked a lot. Netflix doesn't allow you to sign up on an Apple device anymore. You have to sign up on the website and then sign in on your Apple device because they don't want to give 30% to Apple. Well, Roku takes a percentage anyway, which might be why we won't see Google Stadia coming to Roku next, because there'd be quite a negotiation there. But what do you think, Avram? How close do you actually think Roku was to pulling the most recognized media brand on the platform, on the planet?
Very close. Very close. Because
I agree.
I'm sure they would have done it because it wasn't on Roku for quite a while. And I think some older Roku boxes still don't have the YouTube app. I know I have, I think, an older box that can't do YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise. What has been?
I think you've got to be Roku 4 to have YouTube today, and 4 and 5 are the two modern OSs, I think.
So one thing that's interesting to me is just realizing how much money Roku makes off of content distribution deals. So I was looking at this, and I've always thought of Roku as a hardware company, or hardware and software company. They make the software and license it to TCL, and they make the software for their boxes. And frankly, I think of Roku as a huge convenience, but not something, as the best of its breed, but not something that is required in the marketplace, because there's smart TVs that have similar software built into the TV. And then there's competition from the likes of the Fire Stick.
Sure.
And
Google.
I guess, I don't know, and Chromecast, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So with all of that, you would think that they wouldn't be in such a strong market position to be kicking major content off of their platform, because you want, people are not going to buy the box if they can't get the platform that they want.
Sure.
Nevertheless, Roku has used that kind of brinksmanship very effectively. So
because they are
in
as much as it's surprising, they are the number one smart TV platform.
Now, I mean, there's some justice in that, because as far as I'm concerned, their UI and their interface is the best.
Mm-hmm.
I would much prefer to have Roku than to have to deal with Samsung's built-in UI, which is on every TV I've used it, very sluggish and annoying. And I like it better than the Fire Stick or than the Chromecast. But nevertheless, it's not like if they suddenly stopped carrying a platform that was important to me, I would totally switch. But so in Q3 of 2021, the company had $680 million in revenue, which is 51% more than they had the year before, but still 3 million below forecast. So apparently people were disappointed. Like, you grew 51%, but it wasn't enough. I'll never understand the stock market. You can grow tremendously and your stock can lose value, or you could shrink, but you shrink less than people thought you would, and that's okay.
Somebody could die in a TV show while near your product, and your stock price could go down 10%, because that definitely happened this week.
That's what happened with Peloton.
Absolutely,
it went down 10% from the guy on Sex and the City.
Yes.
I hope nobody ever says that the market is rational. Anyway, but what's interesting here in looking at the results is that the amount that they make selling devices was of that 680 million was only 97.4 million. Mm-hmm. So platform revenue, which I think means like the licensing part of it,
some of it,
582 million.
Some of it's content, and some of it is licensing Roku to TCL and Hitachi and companies like that.
But they're making a lot of money off of these deals, so there's a lot at stake for them.
Absolutely,
I get it. And the interesting thing is, while I think of them as a device company, like, oh, I spent $40 on your device, and I'm not going to need another one for many years. They think of themselves as a platform that is a viewership platform, and they've been able to successfully market themselves that way to the stock market and to content providers,
and to other hardware manufacturers. Right? They've managed to convince TCL and Hitachi and a couple other companies that they're the way to go, and it's worked out for everybody so far.
I mean, I have to buy a new TV soon, and I'm probably going to get a TCL so that the Roku is built in, so I don't have to attach a box. So, like, that is a selling point for me.
For those who are watching, the reason I keep pointing off camera is there is a TCL Roku television that I can almost touch. It's currently unplugged. Otherwise, I was going to turn it on and see what the current version of the operating system was while we were talking.
But so over the course of the quarter, they announced that their 18 billion hours of streaming took place on a Roku box, with active accounts averaging 3.5 streaming hours a day. So Roku is acting like a cable provider.
Yes.
Except, ironically, the relationship between Roku and the content providers seems to be opposite what the relationship is between cable providers and content providers with cable networks, because usually it's the cable network that's paying for the content to be present rather than the content provider paying the cable network to be present.
True.
Right? I mean, it's funny,
but in that case,
yeah.
you're paying you as the person watching are paying your cable company, who's then paying the content companies, as opposed to in this relationship you're paying the content companies and not paying anything to Roku. So I guess it makes sense that the funnel
Right.
is,
They don't make their money. They don't make their money unless you can view it on Roku.
right.
However, I have to say Roku is really relying on the idea that once people get a Roku box, they won't switch.
Right.
Whereas I could completely see a situation where there's a channel that people want, it's not on Roku, and they say, okay, I'm just going to get a Fire Stick for $25 and make the switch.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And in that same vein, I'm now, as of this moment, I am now surprised that LG hasn't gotten into the set-top box business with webOS, since they are now the only non-Google platform. With Stadia, there are things that are there that you can't do other places. I'm now officially a little surprised that they're not in that space, because you can't do Stadia on a Roku. Maybe you don't want a Google TV with Chromecast with Google TV is what it's called. Maybe you don't want one of those. So anyway, that's a little unrelated, but yeah, it would be really easy to swap to another platform for most people, even if it's built in for $25 or $30 to get a Chromecast with Google TV, which is the current model, or a Fire Stick. Just move on.
Yeah, but I guess good for Roku. In my experience, their UI and their products are a cut above the others.
Yeah,
but and I guess good for Roku users that we can still get YouTube, because
and
I really
YouTube
like
TV.
being able to watch YouTube on my Roku box.
For sure. And so we don't know if we're going to see the standalone YouTube TV app come back to the platform. My guess is yes, just to kind of separate those two brands out a little bit, and to keep the interfaces for both platforms a little simpler. We'll probably see the original YouTube TV app come back in pretty short order. But yeah, we'll see with time. But at least we have at least 2 years before we see this kind of pressure again, since it is a multi-year deal. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We had quite a bit going on in the chat room tonight, which we always appreciate. If you didn't join us live and would like to in the future, normally Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us and chat with us in the studio. Give us your topic or your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you can't do that, PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. You can see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can subscribe. Don't forget, over on YouTube, if you hit the join button for $6.99 a month, you're going to get ad-free versions of this show, the Piltch Point, and then all of our CES stuff ahead of everybody else. So definitely go check that out. It's a great way to support us. I will also note, back to our last topic, Roku is also where you can find all of the Quibi content that went away when Quibi went away. So if you want to watch those 10 episodes of Reno 911, Roku bought them. So I have definitely rewatched those mini Reno 911 episodes more than once, because they were pretty good. Anyway, unrelated. Anyway, so I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we'll see you back next time. Ciao. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.